Law 1, never outshine the master. Make your masters appear more brilliant than they are and you will attain the heights of power. When it comes to power, outshining the master is perhaps the worst mistake of all. Never take your position for granted and never let any favors you receive go to your head. Law 2, never put too much trust in friends, learn how to use enemies. But hire a former enemy and he will be more loyal than a friend, because he has more to prove. In fact, you have more to fear from friends than from enemies. If you have no enemies, find a way to make them. Since honesty rarely strengthens friendship, you may never know how a friend truly feels. Friends will say that they love your poetry, adore your music, envy your taste in clothes. Maybe they mean it, often they do not. The key to power, then, is the ability to judge who is best able to further your interests in all situations. Keep friends for friendship, but work with the skilled and competent. Law 3, conceal your intentions. Use decoyed objects and desires and red herrings to throw people off the scent. Hide your intentions not by closing up, with the risk of appearing secretive, and making people suspicious, but by talking endlessly about your desires and goals, just not your real ones. You will kill 3 birds with 1 stone, you appear friendly, open, and trusting, you conceal your intentions, and you send your rivals on time-consuming wild goose chases. Use smoke screens to disguise your actions. This derives from a simple truth: people can only focus on one thing at a time. It is really too difficult for them to imagine that the bland and harmless person they are dealing with is simultaneously setting up something else. As Kierkegaard wrote, the world wants to be deceived. Law 4, always say less than necessary. One oft-told tale about Kissinger involved a report that Winston Lord had worked on for days. After giving it to Kissinger, he got it back with the notation, "Is this the best you can do?" Lord rewrote and polished and finally resubmitted it. Back it came with the same curt question. After redrafting it one more time, and once again getting the same question from Kissinger, Lord snapped, "Damn it, yes, it's the best I can do." To which Kissinger replied, "Fine, then I guess I'll read it this time." Persons who cannot control his words shows that he cannot control himself, and is unworthy of respect. But the human tongue is a beast that few can master. It strains constantly to break out of its cage, and if it is not tamed, it will run wild and cause you grief. Power cannot accrue to those who squander their treasure of words. Power is in many ways a game of appearances, and when you say less than necessary, you inevitably appear greater and more powerful than you are. Learn the lesson: once the words are out, you cannot take them back. Keep them under control. Be particularly careful with sarcasm. The momentary satisfaction you gain with your biting words will be outweighed by the price you pay. Law 5, so much depends on reputation, guard it with your life. Always be alert to potential attacks and thwart them before they happen. Meanwhile, learn to destroy your enemies by opening holes in their own reputations. Then stand aside and let public opinion hang them. Doubt is a powerful weapon. Once you let it out of the bag with insidious rumors, your opponents are in a horrible dilemma. Once you have a solid base of respect, ridiculing your opponent both puts him on the defensive and draws more attention to you, enhancing your own reputation. Law 6, court attention at all costs. Surround your name with the sensational and the scandalous. Better to be slandered and attacked than ignored. Every crowd has a silver lining. At the start of your career, you must attach your name and reputation to a quality, an image, that sets you apart from other people. Create an air of mystery. Remember, most people are upfront, can be read like an open book, take little care to control their words or image, and are hopelessly predictable. By simply holding back, keeping silent, occasionally uttering ambiguous phrases, deliberately appearing inconsistent, and acting odd in the subtlest of ways, you will emanate an aura of mystery. The people around you will then magnify that aura by constantly trying to interpret you. Do something that cannot be easily explained or interpreted. Law 7, get others to do the work for you, but always take the credit. Law 8, make other people come to you. use bait if necessary. For negotiations or meetings, it is always wise to lure others into your territory, or the territory of your choice. You have your bearings, while they see nothing familiar and are subtly placed on the defensive. Law 9. Win through your actions, never through argument. Law 10. Infection. Avoid the unhappy or the unlucky. When you suspect you are in the presence of an infector, don't argue, don't try to help, don't pass the person on to your friends, or you will become enmeshed. Flee the infector's presence or suffer the consequences. Law 11. Learn to keep people dependent on you. Law 12. Use selective honesty and generosity to disarm your victim. Law 13. When asking for help, appeal to people's self-interest, never their mercy or gratitude. Law 14. Pose as a friend, work as a spy. Law 15. Crush your enemy totally. Law 16. Use absence to increase strength and honor. The more you are seen and heard from, the more common you appear. If you are already established in a group, temporary withdrawal from it will make you more talked about, even more admired. You must learn when to leave. Create value through scarcity. At the start of an affair, you need to heighten your presence in the eyes of the other. If you absent yourself too early, you may be forgotten. But once your lover's emotions are engaged, and the feeling of love has crystallized, absence inflames and excites. Giving no reason for your absence excites even more. Law 17. Keep others in suspended terror, cultivate an air of unpredictability. Too much unpredictability will be seen as a sign of indecisiveness, or even of some more serious psychic problem. Patterns are powerful, and you can terrify people by disrupting them. Such power should only be used judiciously. Law 18. Do not build a fortress to protect yourself, isolation is dangerous. Law 19. Know who you're dealing with, do not offend the wrong person. Law 20. Do not commit to anyone. Do not commit to anyone, but be courted by all. When you hold yourself back, you incur not anger but a kind of respect. You instantly seem powerful because you make yourself ungraspable, rather than succumbing to the group, or to the relationship, as most people do. People who rush to the support of others tend to gain little respect in the process, for their help is so easily obtained, while those who stand back find themselves besieged with supplicants. Do not commit to anyone, stay above the fray. Remember, you have only so much energy and so much time. Every moment wasted on the affairs of others subtracts from your strength. Law 21. Play a sucker to catch a sucker, seem dumber than your mark. Given how important the idea of intelligence is to most people's vanity, it is critical never inadvertently to insult or impugn a person's brain power. Law 22. Use the surrender tactic, transform weakness into power. People trying to make a show of their authority are easily deceived by the surrender tactic. It is always our first instinct to react, to meet aggression with some other kind of aggression. But the next time someone pushes you and you find yourself starting to react, try this: do not resist or fight back, but yield, turn the other cheek, bend. If you surrender instead, you have an opportunity to coil around your enemy and strike with your fangs from close up. Law 23. Concentrate your forces. Intensity defeats extensity every time. Law 24. Play the perfect courtier. The laws of court politics. Avoid ostentation, practice nonchalance, be frugal with flattery, arrange to be noticed, alter your style and language according to the person you are dealing with, never be the bearer of bad news, never affect friendliness and intimacy with your master, never criticize those above you directly, be frugal in asking those above you for favors, never joke about appearances of tastes, do not be the court cynic, be self-observant, master your emotions, fit the spirits of the times, be the source of pleasure. Law 25. Recreate yourself. Be the master of your own image rather than letting others define it for you. The world wants to assign you a role in life. And once you accept that role, you are doomed. Remake yourself into a character of power. Working on yourself like clay should be one of your greatest and most pleasurable life tasks. The first step in the process of self-creation is self-consciousness. Being aware of yourself as an actor and taking control of your appearance and emotions. The second step in the process of self-creation is a variation on the George Sand strategy, the creation of a memorable character, one that compels attention, that stands out above the other players on the stage. Law 26, keep your hands clean. Conceal your mistakes, have a scapegoat around to blame. Make use of the cat's paw. Law 27, play on people's need to believe to create a cult-like following. 5 rules of cult making. Keep it vague, keep it simple, emphasize the visual and sensational over the intellectual, borrow the forms of organized religion to structure the group, disguise your source of income, set up an us versus them dynamic. Law 28, enter action with boldness. The bolder lie the better. Lions circle the hesitant prey. Boldness strikes fear, fear creates authority. Going halfway with half a heart digs a deeper grave. Hesitation creates gaps, boldness obliterates them. Audacity separates you from the herd. When you are as small and obscure as David was, you must find a Goliath to attack. The larger the target, the more attention you gain. Law 29, plan all the way to the end. Law 30, make your accomplishments seem effortless. Law 31, control the options, get others to play with the cards you deal. You give people a sense of how things will fall apart without you, and you offer them a choice: I stay away and you suffer the consequences, or I return under circumstances that I dictate. Color the choices, propose 3 or 4 choices of action for each situation, and would present them in such a way that the one he preferred always seemed the best solution compared to the others. Force the resistor, push them to choose what you want them to do by appearing to advocate the opposite. Alter the playing field. The shrinking options, a variation on this technique, is to raise the price every time the buyer hesitates and another day goes by. This is an excellent negotiating ploy to use on the chronically indecisive, who will fall for the idea that they are getting a better deal today than if they wait till tomorrow. The weak man on the precipice. This tactic is similar to color the choices, but with the weak you have to be more aggressive. Work on their emotions, use fear and terror to propel them into action. Try reason and they will always find a way to procrastinate. Brothers in crime, you attract your victims to some criminal scheme, creating a bond of blood and guilt between you. The horns of a dilemma, the lawyer leads the witnesses to decide between 2 possible explanations of an event, both of which poke a hole in their story. They have to answer the lawyer's questions, but whatever they say they heard themselves. The key to this move is to strike quickly, deny the victim the time to think of an escape. As they wriggle between the horns of the dilemma, they dig their own grave. Law 32, play to people's fantasies. People rarely believe that their problems arise from their own misdeeds and stupidity. Someone or something out there is to blame, the other, the world, the gods, and so salvation comes from the outside as well. Law 33, discover each man's thumbscrew. Everyone has a weakness, a gap in the castle wall. That weakness is usually an insecurity, an uncontrollable emotion or need. It can also be a small secret pleasure. Either way, once found, it is a thumbscrew you can turn to your advantage. Finding the thumbscrews. Pay attention to gestures and unconscious signals. Find the helpless child, look to their childhood, look for contrasts. An overt trait often reveals its opposite. Find the weak link, fill their emotional void, feed on their uncontrollable emotion. Always look for passions and obsessions that cannot be controlled. What people cannot control, you can control for them. Law 35, master the art of timing. Law 36, disdain things you cannot have, ignoring them is the best revenge. Remember, you choose to let things bother you. You can just as easily choose not to notice the irritating offender, to consider the matter trivial and unworthy of your interest. That is the powerful move. Desire often creates paradoxical effects. The more you want something, the more you chase after it, the more it eludes you. The more interest you show, the more you repel the object of your desire. This is because your interest is too strong. It makes people awkward, even fearful. Uncontrollable desire makes you seem weak, unworthy, pathetic. Law 37, create compelling spectacles. Law 38, think as you like but behave like others. If Machiavelli had had a prince for disciple, the first thing he would have recommended him to do would have been to write a book against Machiavellism. Law 39, stir up waters to catch fish. Anger and emotion are strategically counterproductive. You must always stay calm and objective. But if you can make your enemies angry while staying calm yourself, you gain a decided advantage. Law 40, despise the free lunch. The worth of money is not in its possession, but in its use. Law 41, avoid stepping into a great man's shoes. Law 42, strike the shepherd and the sheep will scatter. Within any group, trouble can most often be traced to a single source, the unhappy, chronically dissatisfied one who will always stir up dissension and infect the group with his or her ill ease. Before you know what hit you, the dissatisfaction spreads. Act before it becomes impossible to disentangle. Once you recognize who the stirrer is, pointing it out to other people will accomplish a great deal. 43. Work on the hearts and minds of others. Remember, the key to persuasion is softening people up and breaking them down, gently. Seduce them with a two-pronged approach, work on their emotions and play on their intellectual weaknesses. 44. Disarm and infuriate with the mirror effect. When you mirror your enemies, doing exactly as they do, they cannot figure out your strategy. The mirror effect mocks and humiliates them, making them overreact. By holding up a mirror to their psyches, you seduce them with the illusion that you share their values. By holding up a mirror to their actions, you teach them a lesson. 45. Preach the need to change, but never reform too much at once. If change is necessary, make it feel like a gentle improvement on the past. Even while people understand the need for change, knowing how important it is for institutions and individuals to be occasionally renewed, they are also irritated and upset by changes that affect them personally. 46. Never appear too perfect. Envy creates silent enemies. It is smart to occasionally display defects, and admit to harmless vices, in order to deflect envy and appear more human and approachable. Do not try to help or do favors for those who envy you, they will think you are condescending to them. 47. Do not go past the mark you aimed for. In victory, know when to stop. 48. Assume formlessness. By taking a shape, by having a visible plan, you open yourself to attack. Instead of taking a form for your enemy to grasp, keep yourself adaptable and on the move. Accept the fact that nothing is certain and no law is fixed. The best way to protect yourself is to be as fluid and formless as water, never bet on stability or lasting order. Everything changes. Habit 1. Be proactive. We're in charge. We choose the scripts by which to live our lives. Use this self-awareness to be proactive and take responsibility for your choices. The first habit that Covey discusses is being proactive. What distinguishes us as humans from all other animals is our inherent ability to examine our own character, to decide how to view ourselves and our situations, and to control our own effectiveness. Put simply, in order to be effective one must be proactive. Reactive people take a passive stance. They believe the world is happening to them. They say things like, "There's nothing I can do. That's just the way I am." They think the problem is out there, but that thought is the problem. Reactivity becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, and reactive people feel increasingly victimized and out of control. Proactive people, however, recognize they have responsibility, which Covey defines as the ability to choose how you will respond to a given stimulus or situation. In order to be proactive, we must focus on the circle of influence that lies within our circle of concern. In other words, we must work on the things we can do something about. The positive energy we exert will cause our circle of influence to expand. Reactive people, on the other hand, focus on things that are in their circle of concern but not in their circle of influence, which leads to blaming external factors, emanating negative energy, and causing their circle of influence to shrink. Be less lessons. Challenge yourself to test the principle of proactivity by doing the following. 1. Start replacing reactive language with proactive language. Reactive equals "he makes me so mad." Proactive equals "I control my own feelings." 2. Convert reactive tasks into proactive ones. Habit 2. Begin with the end in mind. Start with a clear destination in mind. Covey says we can use our imagination to develop a vision of what we want to become and use our conscience to decide what values will guide us. Most of us find it rather easy to busy ourselves. We work hard to achieve victories, promotions, higher income, more recognition. But we don't often stop to evaluate the meaning behind this busyness, behind these victories. We don't ask ourselves if these things that we focus on so intently are what really matter to us. Habit 2 suggests that, in everything we do, we should begin with the end in mind. Start with a clear destination. That way, we can make sure the steps we're taking are in the right direction. Covey emphasizes that our self-awareness empowers us to shape our own lives, instead of living our lives by default or based on the standards or preferences of others. Beginning with the end in mind is also extremely important for businesses. Being a manager is about optimizing for efficiency. But being a leader is about setting the right strategic vision for your organization in the first place, and asking, what are we trying to accomplish? Before we as individuals or organizations can start setting and achieving goals, we must be able to identify our values. This process may involve some rescripting to be able to assert our own personal values. Rescripting, Covey explains, is recognizing ineffective scripts that have been written for you, and changing those scripts by proactively writing new ones that are built of your own values. It is also important to identify our center. Whatever is at the center of our life will be the source of our security, guidance, wisdom, and power. Our centers affect us fundamentally. They determine our daily decisions, actions, and motivations, as well as our interpretation of events. However, Covey notes that none of these centers are optimal and that instead, we should strive to be principle-centered. We should identify the timeless, unchanging principles by which we must live our lives. This will give us the guidance that we need to align our behaviors with our beliefs and values. Key lessons. Challenge yourself to test the principle of beginning with the end in mind by doing the following. 1. Visualize in rich detail your own funeral. Who is there? What are they saying about you? About how you lived your life? About the relationships you had? What do you want them to say? Think about how your priorities would change if you only had 30 more days to live. Start living by these priorities. 2. Break down different roles in your life, whether professional, personal, or community, and list 3 to 5 goals you want to achieve for each. 3. Define what scares you. Public speaking? Critical feedback after writing a book? Write down the worst-case scenario for your biggest fear, then visualize how you'll handle this situation. Write down exactly how you'll handle it. Habit 3. Put first things first. In order to manage ourselves effectively, we must put first things first. We must have the discipline to prioritize our day-to-day actions based on what is most important, not what is most urgent. In Habit 2, we discussed the importance of determining our values and understanding what it is we are setting out to achieve. Habit 3 is about actually going after these goals, and executing on our priorities on a day-to-day, moment-to-moment basis. In order to maintain the discipline and the focus to stay on track toward our goals, we need to have the willpower to do something when we don't want to do it. We need to act according to our values rather than our desires or impulses at any given moment. We react to urgent matters. We spend our time doing things that are not important. That means that we neglect quadrant 2, which is the actually most crucial of them all. If we focus on quadrant I and spend our time managing crises and problems, it keeps getting bigger and bigger until it consumes us. This leads to stress, burnout, and constantly putting out fires. If we focus on quadrant 3, we spend most of our time reacting to matters that seem urgent, when the reality is their perceived urgency is based on the priorities and expectations of others. This leads to short-term focus, feeling out of control, and shallow or broken relationships. If we focus on quadrant 4, we are basically leading an irresponsible life. This often leads to getting fired from jobs and being highly dependent on others. Quadrant 2 is at the heart of effective personal management. It deals with things like building relationships, long-term planning, exercising, preparation, all things we know we need to do but somehow seldom get around to actually doing because they don't feel urgent. In order to focus our time in quadrant 2, we have to learn how to say no to other activities, sometimes ones that seem urgent. We also need to be able to delegate effectively. Plus, when we focus on quadrant 2, it means we're thinking ahead, working on the roots, and preventing crises from happening in the first place. This helps us implement the Pareto principle. 80% of your results come from 20% of your time. We should always maintain a primary focus on relationships and results, and a secondary focus on time. Key lessons. Here are some ways you can practice putting first things first. Identify a quadrant 2 activity you've been neglecting. Write it down and commit to implementing it. Create your own time management matrix to start prioritizing. Estimate how much time you spend in each quadrant. Then log your time over 3 days. How accurate was your estimate? How much time did you spend in quadrant 2, the most important quadrant? Habit 4. Think win-win. In order to establish effective interdependent relationships, we must commit to creating win-win situations that are mutually beneficial and satisfying to each party. Covey explains that there are 6 paradigms of human interaction. 1. Win-win, both people win. Agreements or solutions are mutually beneficial and satisfying to both parties. 2. Win-lose, if I win, you lose. Win-lose people are prone to use position, power, credentials, and personality to get their way. 3. Lose-win, I lose, you win. Lose-win people are quick to please and appease, and seek strength from popularity or acceptance. 4. Lose-lose, both people lose. When two win-lose people get together, that is, when two determined, stubborn, ego-invested individuals interact, the result will be lose-lose. 5. Win. People with the win mentality don't necessarily want someone else to lose. That's irrelevant. What matters is that they get what they want. 6. Win-win or no deal. If you can't reach an agreement that is mutually beneficial, there is no deal. The best option is to create win-win situations. With win-lose, or lose-win, one person appears to get what he wants for the moment, but the result will negatively impact the relationship between those two people going forward. The win-win or no-deal option is important to use as a backup. When we have no deal as an option in our mind, it liberates us from needing to manipulate people and push our own agenda. We can be open and really try to understand the underlying issues. Another important factor in solving for win-win situations is maintaining an abundance mentality, or the belief that there's plenty out there for everyone. Most people operate with this scarcity mentality, meaning they act as though everything is zero-sum. In other words, if you get it, I don't. People with the scarcity mentality have a very hard time sharing recognition or credit and find it difficult to be genuinely happy about other people's successes. When it comes to interpersonal leadership, the more genuine our character is, the higher our level of proactivity, the more committed we are to win-win, the more powerful our influence will be. To achieve win-win, keep the focus on results, not methods, on problems, not people. Lastly, the spirit of win-win can't survive in an environment of competition. As an organization, we need to align our reward system with our goals and values and have the systems in place to support win-win. Key lessons. Get yourself to start thinking win-win with these challenges. 1. Think about an upcoming interaction where you'll be attempting to reach an agreement or solution. Write down a list of what the other person is looking for. Next, write a list next to it of how you can make an offer to meet those needs. 2. Identify 3 important relationships in your life. Think about what you feel the balance is in each of those relationships. Do you give more than you take? give? Write down 10 ways to always give more than you take with each one. 3. Deeply consider your own interaction tendencies. Are they win-lose? How does that affect your interactions with others? Can you identify the source of that approach? Determine whether or not this approach serves you well in your relationships. Write all of this down. Habit 5. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. Before we can offer advice, suggest solutions, or effectively interact with another person in any way, we must seek to deeply understand them and their perspective through empathic listening. Let's say you go to an optometrist and tell him that you've been having trouble seeing clearly, and he takes off his glasses, hands them to you and says, "Here, try these, they've been working for me for years." You put them on, but they only make the problem worse. What are the chances you'd go back to the optometrist? Unfortunately, we do the same thing in our everyday interactions with others. We prescribe a solution before we diagnose the problem. We don't seek to deeply understand the problem first. Habit 5 says that we must seek first to understand, then to be understood. In order to seek to understand, we must learn to listen. We can't simply use one technique to understand someone. In fact, if a person senses that we're manipulating her, she will question our motives and will no longer feel safe opening up to us. To listen empathically requires a fundamental paradigm shift. We typically seek first to be understood. Most people listen with the intent to reply, not to understand. At any given moment, they're either speaking or preparing to speak. After all, Covey points out, communication experts estimate that 10% of our communication is represented by our words. 30% is represented by our sounds. 60% is represented by our body language. When we listen autobiographically, in other words, with our own perspective as our frame of reference, we tend to respond in one of 4 ways. 1. Evaluate, agree or disagree with what is said. 2. Probe, ask questions from our own frame of reference. 3. Advise, give counsel based on our own experience. 4. Interpret, try to figure out the person's motives and behavior based on our own motives and behavior. But if we replace these types of response with empathic listening, we see dramatic results in improved communication. It takes time to make this shift, but it doesn't take nearly as long to practice empathic listening as it does to back up and correct misunderstandings, or to live with unexpressed and unresolved problems only to have them surface later on. The second part of Habit 5 is then to be understood. This is equally critical in achieving win-win solutions. When we're able to present our ideas clearly, and in the context of a deep understanding of the other person's needs and concerns, we significantly increase the credibility of your ideas. Key lessons. Here are a few ways to get yourself in the habit of seeking first to understand. 1. Next time you're watching 2 people communicating, cover your ears and watch. What emotions are being communicated that might not come across through words alone? Was one person or the other more interested in the conversation? Write down what you noticed. 2. Next time you give a presentation, rooted in empathy, begin by describing the audience's point of view in great detail. What problems are they facing? How is what you're about to say offering a solution to their problem? Habit 6. Synergize. By understanding and valuing the differences in another person's perspective, we have the opportunity to create synergy, which allows us to uncover new possibilities through openness and creativity. The combination of all the other habits prepares us for Habit 6, which is the habit of synergy, or when 1 + 1 = 3 or more and the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. For example, if you plant 2 plants close together, their roots will commingle and improve the quality of the soil, so that both plants will grow better than they would on their own. Synergy allows us to create new alternatives and open new possibilities. It allows us as a group to collectively agree to ditch the old scripts and write new ones. So how can we introduce synergy to a given situation or environment? Start with Habits 4 and 5. You must think win-win and seek first to understand. Once you have these in mind, You can pool your desires with those of the other person or group. And then you're not on opposite sides of the problem, you're together on one side, looking at the problem, understanding all the needs, and working to create a third alternative that will meet them. What we end up with is not a transaction, but a transformation. Both sides get what they want, and they build their relationship in the process. By putting forth a spirit of trust and safety, we will prompt others to become extremely open and feed on each other's insights and ideas, creating synergy. The real essence of synergy is valuing the differences, the mental, emotional, and psychological differences between people. After all, if two people have the same opinion, one is unnecessary. When we become aware of someone's different perspective, we can say, "Good. You see it differently. Help me see what you see." We seek first to understand, and then we find strength and utility in those different perspectives in order to create new possibilities and win-win results. Synergy allows you to value the differences in other people as a way to expand your perspective. Sidestep negative energy and look for the good in others. Exercise courage in interdependent situations to be open and encourage others to be open. Catalyze creativity and find a solution that will be better for everyone by looking for a third alternative. Key lessons. 1. Make a list of people who irritate you. Now choose just one person. How are their views different? Put yourself in their shoes for 1 minute. Think and pretend how it feels to be them. Does this help you understand them better? Now next time you're in a disagreement with that person, try to understand their concerns and why they disagree with you. The better you can understand them, the easier it will be to change their mind, or change yours. 2. Make a list of people with whom you get along well. Now choose just one person. How are their views different? Now write down a situation where you had excellent teamwork and synergy. Why? What conditions were meant to reach such fluidity in your interactions? How can you recreate those conditions again? Habit 7. Sharpen the saw. To be effective, we must devote time to renewing ourselves physically, spiritually, mentally, and socially. Continuous renewal allows us to synergistically increase our ability to practice each habit. Habit 7 is focused around renewal, or taking time to sharpen the saw. It surrounds all of the other habits and makes each one possible by preserving and enhancing your greatest asset, yourself. There are 4 dimensions of our nature, and each must be exercised regularly, and in balanced ways. Physical dimension. The goal of continuous physical improvement is to exercise our body in a way that will enhance our capacity to work, adapt, and enjoy. To renew ourselves physically, we must eat well, get sufficient rest and relaxation, exercise on a regular basis to build endurance, flexibility, and strength. Focusing on the physical dimension helps develop habit 1 muscles of proactivity. We act based on the value of well-being instead of reacting to the forces that keep us from fitness. Spiritual dimension. The goal of renewing our spiritual self is to provide leadership to our life and reinforce your commitment to our value system. To renew yourself spiritually, you can practice daily meditation, communicate with nature, immerse yourself in great literature or music. A focus on our spiritual dimension helps us practice habit 2, as we continuously revise and commit ourselves to our values, so we can begin with the end in mind. Mental dimension. The goal of renewing our mental health is to continue expanding our mind. To renew yourself mentally, you can read good literature, keep a journal of your thoughts, experiences, and insights. Limit television watching to only those programs that enrich your life and mind. Focusing on our mental dimension helps us practice habit 3 by managing ourselves effectively to maximize the use of our time and resources. Social, emotional dimension. The goal of renewing ourselves socially is to develop meaningful relationships. To renew yourself emotionally, you can seek to deeply understand other people, make contributions to meaningful projects that improve the lives of others, maintain an abundance mentality, and seek to help others find success. Renewing our social and emotional dimension helps us practice habits 4, 5, and 6 by recognizing that win-win solutions do exist, seeking to understand others, and finding mutually beneficial third alternatives through synergy. As we focus on renewing ourselves along these 4 dimensions, we must also seek to be a positive scripture for other people. We must look to inspire others to a higher path by showing them we believe in them, by listening to them empathically, by encouraging them to be proactive. The real beauty of the 7 habits is that improvement in one habit synergistically increases our ability to improve the rest. Renewal is the process that empowers us to move along an upward spiral of growth and change, of continuous improvement. Key lessons. 1. Make a list of activities that would help you renew yourself along each of the 4 dimensions. Select one activity for each dimension and list it as a goal for the coming week. At the end of the week, evaluate your performance. What led you to succeed or fail to accomplish each goal? 2. Commit to writing down a specific sharp and saw activity in all 4 dimensions every week, to do them, and to evaluate your performance and results. Here is a quick summary of the 9 insights on happiness that are discussed in the book. 1. Mindfulness, savoring, flow. All 3 can increase our happiness. Mindfulness is being attentive to the present moment with no judgment. Highly mindful people, that is, those who are sharply aware of their here and now, are more likely to flourish and score on the positive side of mental health. Savoring is trying to feel and admire, enjoy, and extend our present positive experiences to the fullest. Those who savor the things they have in their life are happier people. We should let ourselves truly appreciate the beauty and meaning in the things we are surrounded with. Flow is a state of deep absorption in an activity, with such intense focus that we lose the sense of time. The book suggests being in a state of flow can be rewarding in itself and can make us significantly happier. 2. Marriage. Married couples get a happiness boost for about 2 years. Then they return to their baseline happiness. Then what are the secrets of keeping a marriage happy and satisfying? One vital secret behind happy and fulfilling marriages is how a couple responds to each other's successes. If they revel in being happy at their counterpart's successes, it creates a major uptick in their relationship satisfaction. So, if there's good news to share, what matters is they are happy as if it were their own success, not the others. Not when they quip, "I'm so happy for you," but when they exclaim, "I'm so happy." Also, studies show couples who idealize each other are less likely to lose love and satisfaction in their relationship. Idealizing means maximizing one's strengths and virtues while minimizing weaknesses and flaws. Moreover, idealizing one's spouse can work as a self-fulfilling prophecy, a psychological theory that says beliefs eventually turn real. 3. Aging. It may surprise you that youth and early adulthood are not the sunniest times of our lives. What research conclusively confirms is older people are actually happier and more satisfied with their lives than younger people. Happiness increases as we age, after around 40 years, and peaks after 60 years. One key strategy for older people to get happier is to spend more time reminiscing, which is the act of retrieving autobiographical memories. What reminiscing does is breed positive feelings and make the person feel more loved and protected. The more time the seniors spend remembering their old times, the more positivity they add to their mood, morale, and self-esteem. 4. Religion. Religious people tend to have more security, meaning, and purpose in life. Actively practicing divinity or spirituality is linked to better physical health, more pro-social behavior, and being more successful at keeping away from unhealthy behaviors as smoking. Those who are religious are happier, healthier, and cope better when they fall into bad times. It may be because of the social support of their religious group. 5. Money. What about using money to buy happiness? Research shows as long as you meet your basic needs, it's how you spend your money, not how much you possess, that influences your happiness more. The key is not in how financially successful you are, but what you do with it and how you deal it out. While on money and happiness, we must note humans are prone to hedonic adaptation. Hedonic adaptation is the notion that after positive, or negative, events, followed by an increase in positive, or negative, feelings, people return to a relatively stable, baseline level of affect. Diener, Lucas, and Skolin, 2006. So, if you keep on amassing wealth for the sake of it, it will not make you more and more happy, but less and less. Because you rapidly get used to that wealth. In short, money makes us happier, but only till our basic needs are met, and thereafter, when we spend it in certain happiness-boosting ways. 6. Experiences. Research finds it is not the things that keep us happy for long, but our experiences. Things we collect lie outside us, while our experiences nest inside us. Experiences are superior to goods and assets in making us happier because: first, most of the stuff we buy doesn't change much after we have bought them. So we adapt to them a great deal faster. Note the word, adapt. It's that hedonic adaptation we talked about earlier. Second, an experience is in itself more social. We are more likely to share and relive our fond memories with others, much more than our stuff. The third reason experiences make us happier is we are less likely to compare them to those of others. You don't usually claim your holiday happiness was bigger than your friends', do you? It does not take us long to start feeling that our prized acquisitions have been there forever. In time, they grow old and dull, and we get eager to replace them with new shiny things we'd again get adapted to soon. In contrast, experiences grow in value and joy as time passes. A fun-filled weekend, a lovely dinner, or a meaningful conversation can get embossed into our memories and bring happiness every time we revisit them. 7. Altruism. Altruism is when we act out of concern for another's well-being expecting no reward. Altruism is the opposite of selfishness. Charity and altruism make us doubly happy. With altruism, both the giver and the receiver feel happier. When we give freely, we not only feel more positive about ourselves but also about those who receive, that they are worthy of our kindness and respect. When we're charitable, we actively go out to reduce the distresses of poverty and suffering in the world. In the process, we distract ourselves from our own petty problems, gain a greater appreciation for our good fortune, and step away from our worries. 8. Goals and success. When we pursue our life goals, it adds structure and purpose to our lives. They raise our self-esteem and self-confidence and make us creative and productive. Most often, each of our major life goals is made up of many smaller goals. When we achieve these small goals, each makes us happier. It starts a positive feedback loop. Those many moments of small joys now drive us towards our bigger goals. So you see, when we feel happy and good while striving towards our major life goals, we are more likely to keep working at it. Thus, the happier people have greater chances of becoming successful. Happiness comes before success and drives it. 9. Gratitude. Those who are routinely grateful are more energetic and optimistic, have better mental and physical health, have better relationships, and are high on happiness. Feeling regularly grateful can bring us a bunch of benefits for physical and mental health. 8 reasons gratitude makes you happier. Gratitude encourages morality. It raises self-worth and self-esteem. It helps prevent hedonic adaptation. It helps to stop comparing yourself to others. It fosters the savoring of positive experiences. It may reduce feelings of anger, resentment, and greed. It can help you cope better with stressful and traumatic events. Help build new social bonds and strengthen existing ones.